Hey, what's up guys, it's T-Bone here and welcome back to the 5th episode of the Beginner's Guide to Playing Legendary Game of Heroes. Now, originally for this video, I had intended to go over what happened when you get to player level 10 and then also level 12, because that's where you unlock the next set of items, the dungeons, etc. But I've also heard a lot of questions in my other videos about what intensity is and what are relics, what does it actually mean, how do you evolve it, etc. So I thought I would just do a video right now just to kind of go over the concept because intensity is a new concept and I want to make sure that everyone understands what it is. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a campaign right now. I'm going to go into 1-2. Because it is the lowest stamina requirement here, and I'm going to bring in a just a ally here, but I'm going to bring in just one team, okay? Because I want to introduce the idea of what intensity is, and I wanted to do this. Let's start simple. Okay, so the Wicked Witch, she is a such a card that does what we call she generates intensity, and the intensity is a value that you keep track of within your fight, and then it's a counter. It really just is a counter, and there's different ways for that counter to be increased. And then there are cards that increase the counter, and there are cards that use it to perform additional damage. That's really the basic concept. So if you take a look at the back of the card for the Witch, you can see that it has this battle skill called Corruption. So it's very important as you're looking at cards, always look at the back and understand what it actually does. Okay, so we talked about leader skill before. It's what describes what happens when you put that card in the middle of the deck. Okay, in the third position or in the middle position, if you will. In this case, any cards that are considered Earth Corrupt heroes, which you can see for the Wicked Witch underneath this is Warrior Corrupt. Any other cards that you bring in will get 300% damage and health boost. Okay, so that's how you read the leader skill. Now for the battle skill, it will attack for 1,500% attack, and it will also increase the corrupt intensity by 10. And if you look at the underneath where it says corrupt intensity, it's a description of what it is. So it's an intensity that powers certain skills. Now the way they've done this is they've categorized intensity. So it's not just intensity; it's intensity for corrupt or for honored, for fable. It's just a way for them to sort of say there's different types of intensity, different cards will power up different types of intensity. That's all it means. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have cards that can consume that type of intensity. In our purposes right now, we have a corrupt hero that will generate corrupt intensity. Okay, so let's go into a fight. And before we do that, you can also bring relics. So the next thing I'm going to cover is what a relic is and how you can level it and how you can evolve it. So relics are what you can do, we can attach to your team, okay, as a support for the team to make it more powerful. So I have an Assassin Blade here, and you can look at the description here where it increases attack of all applicable heroes by 937. This bonus applies after other attack bonuses such as Commander Gems. This is just a way so that it doesn't get multiplied too much. It's at the end of all of the calculations for the damage boost. You simply add 937 to the end of it. Fires of Malice creates 4 fire gems at the beginning of battle as long as a corrupt is on the team. So you notice that I have a witch, which is a warrior corrupt hero. So by the fact that she's on the team, it meets this requirement, and so I will generate 4 fire gems at the beginning of the battle, and it also increases corrupt intensity by 5 every turn. Okay, so this is another way for me to generate and increase my intensity. So now let's go into battle with just this one card. We'll disregard the ally that I brought in here. I specifically brought in something that is not an Earth hero to help illustrate this point. So now let's go in and sort of see. You can take a look at the number up top. So you notice that I have my 2 relics that activated. So turn 1 increased the 2 relics, increased the intensity by 5 each. So now you can see a number 10 above my card. This is how you can keep track of how many intensity is actually accumulated at this point. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and start collecting all of the green gems to activate my witch. And then when I activate my witch, before I do that, notice that we are now on turn 2. So now, again, my 2 relics have activated and increased the intensity count by 10. And then when I use the skill itself also increases intensity by 10. So you can sort of see how things go now. Okay, so every turn that you go through, you're going to increase the intensity, and every time you use a battle skill, you also increase intensity. Okay, so that's the basic concept. And then the important thing to note here then is the more turns that you take, the higher the intensity count is. Okay, and this is important because it actually has a very important role here, in that the higher your intensity count is going to be, the more damage you will actually be dealing to your enemies, depending on the card that you're using. So let's go and finish off these waves, and I'll explain to you what that means. So right now we're at 50. It's going to go up to 60. And then I'm going to use the battle skill. It's now up to 80. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and finish off this boss here. And one thing to note too here, I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to how I am actually matching my gems, but I want you to remember, like, one of the things that we talked about in the previous videos is it's important for you to focus on matching your power gems. Okay, so if you have 2 power gems together, always try and swap them as much as you can. It gives you an added bonus to your multiplier, and then if it happens to be a power gem that matches the affinity of the cards that you're using, you're going to get boosted in damage as well. So always focus on that as a first starting point. There are more advanced ways to get even more damage out of that. We can talk about in future episodes as well, or at least in future fights. Okay, so let's go ahead and thank this ally, and then now let's go and bring in another ally. And now let's add so we talked about a card that will actually generate intensity. Let's bring in a card that will actually consume it to boost the damage, to sort of see like how this finally gets used. All right, and I think I'm going to just use my Frankenstein. And I didn't get a chance to explain Frankenstein, but we can see at the end of this battle what it does. But basically, the Frankenstein card will actually consume intensity at the end. And you can see both cards now have number 10 on top. The key thing here is you're not going to add numbers together. All the numbers that are on top of the cards is just look at one of the numbers. Like, they'll be the same all throughout. It will tell you what the total is. So right now the total is 10 instead of 20. Okay, so that's one thing that could be confusing. I want to make sure to call that out. So the way to look at it is it's simply 10 intensity right now. And then on turn 2, we're going to increase up to 20. And then I'll use the witch to increase it up to 30. Now, Frankenstein, his skill is that it will, when you activate its battle skill, it will see how much intensity is there, and then it will say for every 5 intensity, it will actually damage an additional 5,000% damage. Okay, so if you can imagine, the higher your intensity count is, the more damage Frankenstein would actually deal. So right now we're at 40, and at 50, I'm just going to go ahead and use this to show you what that means, what it looks like. So if I use my battle skill, we can see how much damage we're going to deal. All right, so we see that it dealt 2.7 million damage when it's at 50 intensity, and you can only imagine that as the intensity count goes up, the damage is actually going to be higher, because again, it's, the higher the number, the more damage it will deal. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish this. So that is basically intensity in a nutshell, and then you will have cards that will consume or generate the same type of intensity. So you'll want to grab those cards together. They will then benefit from the intensity that you're going to be accumulating in the game. So it really has become a large part of this game, is how much intensity do you generate, and then what is the benefit and what is the side effect of having those intensity numbers. Okay, so that is intensity in a nutshell. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and clear out some of the cards that I've collected here. I'm going to go ahead and sell these cards real quick. And then let's talk about relics. Okay, so one way to look at relics is to just go into your cards, and then you can see gear. It used to be called gear, but I think now a lot of people just call it relics. So if you go into the gear tab, this is where all of your relics are. And right now I have, I've collected quite a bit, so it is going to be very hard to go through, but there are different types, and you can actually filter the types by selecting this button here where it has 3 rows with the arrows. Click on that, and then you can sort of see, what are the targets, what's the situation, what is the effect. And I think situation is really where it's going to make a difference. So if you are interested in finding your relics that apply to only guild versus guild, go ahead and set a filter. And now here are all the relics that can only be used in a guild versus guild defense situation. And then we can also change that to PvP, whether you're an attacker or if you're a PvP defender. Now PvP hasn't been, it's not currently available, but when it is available, then you can use them. Or you can use for just Crusade. There's certain relics that are only applicable in Crusade scenarios, but I haven't seen one in a long time, so I don't know if we're gonna have any more of those. And then you can also say just go no filter, and then you can see the effects. It basically gives you a way to sort of say, I want to see cards that will generate just dark gems. Okay, or you could change that to say, does it target all of my fire cards, light card, dark card, things that we can talk about the corrupt. So any relics that will target corrupt, for example, you can see I have the pumpkin and my assassin blade. Okay, so at a nutshell, this is how you can filter and look for it. And scrolls, this is something that is very uncommon now. They used to sell scrolls that boost, but I don't think you'll see them anymore. So these are just the one-time use things that give you additional benefit. They might have still scrolls for PvP. So you can see here a potent bolt. This only applies in a PvP, and it does something for marksman. I have other videos I've talked about PvP there if you wanted to take a look. And then let's go ahead and change the filter here, because I want to talk about how can you power up your relic. So let's see. So in general, when you get your relic, it'll be in different levels, and the only thing you can do in the screen is you can give it more damage. You can't change the number of stars here. Okay, so you can sell it or you can power up, and when you click on power up, it basically allows you to sacrifice your other relics to give it more level. Okay, but it doesn't tell you exactly what the update is going, sort of the upgraded amount is going to be. So you'll see that afterwards. I'm not going to sacrifice anything for this relic right now, but you can see right now it's the effect is it'll increase the team health by 400. If I went ahead and sacrificed something, then it'll go up by some more. Okay, and then so that is basically the only way that you can actually give the level up a relic, and to evolve a relic, which means you go from a 4-star relic to a 5-star to eventually a 6-star. What you do is you go down here, and at some point, I don't remember exactly what level you'll see it at, probably at level 12 or higher, is where you can go into Forge. When you go into Forge, this is sort of the view you're going to see, and depending on what level you're at, you're going to see different items that's available. So depending on what you want. So if we take a look at the shield, if we wanted to take a look at the shield, you go to the altar and craft shop, and now you can see the various different shields that's available, and it'll tell you exactly what are all of the catalysts that you need in order to level up or to go from a 2-star to 3-star. So it'll tell you that you need an onyx slab. And if you click on the slab shard, it'll tell you where to find them. Okay, what campaigns you can go to in order to find them. This is why it's important to go through the campaign, because once you finish it, you can go back, revisit it, and get more things that you need. So this one requires an onyx, and then you can also you need to get the stones, the stone scale. Again, it'll tell you where you can farm for these items. So all of these things, it becomes harder and harder actually to go from 2-star to 3-star to 4-star, 5-star, eventually 6 stars. But the nice thing is, as you go up in level, you can see that that it obviously increases the stats by a lot. Okay, so at 6 stars, this shield now will actually increase the team health by 1000, as opposed to the value we saw earlier at 4 stars, which is only 400. All right, so once you have your relics, what you want to do is you want to make sure you equip them. And there is a certain, there's some tip I wanted to show you. So when you equip a relic, you want to equip as many as you can, and you want to make sure that you're equipping them that actually help your units. So if you have any relics that, you want to focus on relics that have a power that actually creates gems. Creates gems based on the type of card that you have on the team, because what it does is it gives you more gems at the very first turn of the battle and gives you a huge edge compared to not having the relics. So I would actually say that in situations where if you feel like you want to spend gems, go and buy a relic. If you buy a relic, it's going to be helpful, but then you have to commit to playing in the event where you can then get the materials to actually evolve them, because the risk here is once the event's over, right now you don't have any ways to evolve previous relics from previous events. I know that the dev team has said that they're going to change it, but right now they don't have. So anyways, one thing here is you can equip your relics, and when you swap, here's an interesting order. So whenever you swap out a relic, I'm going to swap it out for a raised staff. Notice that I started on the leftmost position. When I swap it out, it's going to insert at the very end. So that's the order you're always going to see. And so whenever you want to switch out the relics, sort of think about the order it's going to go in, because the effects of your relics are triggered from left to right. So the way that this goes right now, what you're going to see is you're going to have the Jade power that generates 4 Earth gems, followed by another Jade that generates 4 gems, followed by the Lantern that generates 4 Earth gems, and now the Saber that doesn't actually do anything, followed by a Raised Staff that actually creates a gem, Fire Gem at the end. So there are some strategies that you can employ as long as you know that the relics activate one at a time, starting from left to right. Then you can decide what situation you want to, depending on the situation, you may want to change up the order of your relics. But my general feedback is whatever, if you have a mixture. So in this case, I have both red and green. If I want more greens than reds, then put all the reds at the very, very beginning and put all the greens at the very, very end, so that you can override any red gems that were created with green ones, so you have more of an advantage there. So that would be my tip for that. And with that, that is pretty much the video for both Intensity and Relic. Hopefully it's been helpful. I've sort of covered concepts that are both sort of for beginners as well as more intermediate, I guess. And if there's any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me, send me comments, send me feedback. Let me know how I can help, you understand mechanics of the game better. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. And for the next video, hopefully we'll actually then go in and talk about the dungeons. Okay, so for today, for example, water dungeon, get to level 10, and you'll be able to start fighting in this dungeon. All right, so thanks very much for your time. I'll see you next episode.